from work to Cuna. It was dark, it was foggy, and he was messing with the radio. He looked up, and right in front of him was a herd of horses, and he crashed directly into them. They were all injured and declared lame, meaning they could no longer carry a rider or do any sort of work. The front end of his truck was destroyed, and luckily he was unharmed. That's not an everyday encounter with horses. Typically we see them safely tucked away in a pasture. However, they do live wild in the Owyhee Mountains around here. So I'm here to let you know a little bit more about horses' behavior, what to do and what not to do when you come in contact with one. I'm also here to let you know how horses are different than dogs and a little bit about what their owners don't want you to do and what they would prefer you to do in that situation. And I know a little bit about that because I've been training horses since I was 12 years old, and I was riding for many years before that. I am a current horse owner, and I trained her myself. My 6-year-old daughter is able to ride alone, and I'm really proud of that. By the end of this, you will know how to approach, how to feed, and pretty much how to behave in some common horse interactions that you'll encounter here in the Treasure Valley. So let's get started. I'm going to go over some basic horse knowledge that will shed light on how they communicate. Knowing how they communicate will just ensure a safe connection with the animal. First, horses are fight or flight animals. They will stand their ground and fight you if they're cornered or if they're feeling territorial. Flight just means that they will run away from what scares them. Horses are highly social animals that use very fine body and facial movements to communicate with each other. And this was stated by Leanne Proops, and she's a researcher in the psychology department at the University of Sussex. They are highly social, and they often bicker with each other. Mares have a monthly cycle, and they get really moody, and stallions really want to control everything. So it is important to not be in the middle of two horses. And if you bring food into the mix, that's asking for trouble. They will try and push each other away. They might even step on you in the process. So you want to keep that in mind. Horses' body language controls their social circle. Like I was saying, they will push each other away, and their body language will let them know when it's safe for them to come back in. So horse trainers have been using that idea, and Monty Roberts, who's the horse whisperer, really made that popular in the last 2 decades. So being assertive and being submissive are both equally important aspects of horse communication. And now that we know a little bit more about how horses communicate and how they may react in a situation, let's go over how to approach a loose horse, as well as the issue of somebody else feeding your animal or you feeding someone else's animal. First and foremost, necessary skills are required. You really need to know what you're doing. They're not like dogs. You can't just put a rope around their neck anywhere and expect them to follow you, okay? The best way to approach a scared horse is indirectly. And if you're not skilled enough to approach that horse, make sure that everyone around them is calm. If this was the accident on the side of the road, call 911. If it's less severe, just call the Humane Society and they will handle everything. Accepted wisdom in the horse world tells us that an average light horse weighs about 1,000 pounds. And that's stated by equine nutritionist Karen Briggs. 1,000 pounds. My horse is 1,200 and my 6-year-old leads her. So you really need to know the horse, know who's trained it, and if it's just running loose, you don't. So keep that in mind, okay? Horses are work animals. They are not pets. They have been domesticated differently than dogs. Horses have been domesticated to do a job, whereas dogs have been domesticated to be our companions. A horse that is always fed treats and pet, they turn really spoiled and they can become mean to their stable mates and chase them off just for food. They really love it. So it's okay to use food to catch a loose horse, but it is not okay to use it as a distraction or without permission. And now another time that we might encounter a horse is at a rodeo or maybe being ridden in your neighborhood. In any event, it's important to keep these things in mind when in the presence of an equine. First is horse vision. They have eyes on the side of their head, which is very different than us. So they cannot see anything in front of them, not even their front hooves, and they can't see anything behind them. So if you're needing to go behind a horse, you'll have to keep that in mind. You'll want to either touch them the entire time you go around so they know you're there, and the closer you hug in, the less momentum that kick has if they were to kick you. If you're not comfortable being that close, then make sure to go wide enough that an outstretched leg could not get you. If you're going to approach a horse from the front, do not make eye contact, because that's a challenge. Just telling them to move away. You're going to want to approach their shoulder, go to their neck, and then move on to their head. If you want to feed a treat, keep your hand flat so that your fingers don't get sucked into their mouth. Jennifer Williams, who's a PhD, she states, we're all trained early on to watch out for a horse's hind legs because that's where the kicks come from. But the front legs can also communicate quite a bit, and they're also dangerous. They could strike out and they could get you, and you're always going to want to be aware of all four legs as well as your entire body and where you're at. Loud noises, bright flashes, quick movements, these are all things that could spook a horse. And sometimes horses and riders will cross our paths unexpectedly. So we'll want to know how to drive around a horse. If you come across them, know that the riders know the posted speed limit for the road that they're on. Don't speed by to get it over with, and don't go really slow because that drags it out. Keep the speed limit, okay? And so to wrap it up, today I've discussed the behavior and important things to remember to stay safe. I've also given knowledge to make a safer choice in a scary situation and how to make a more respectful choice when it comes to feeding, handling, and driving around horses. I hope you walk away understanding the nature of horses and how they might respond to you and why they do that, and that sets them apart from dogs. Hope you have a nice encounter with the next horse. Thanks. How many minutes is that?